So right now, we're going to move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Albert Chakona, a biodiversity specialist who discovers new species and works to conserve them. He's going to take us deep into the fishes. So, Professor Albert, welcome to the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a big thank you to Paul for that fabulous introduction of the physiography of the Okavango Delta. My name is already mentioned. I'm Albert Chakona. I work for the National Research Foundation, and I'm based at one of the NRF's entities, the South African Institute for Aquatic Biodiversity. Paul has really touched on quite a lot of the aspects that that I'm going to talk about on my in my presentation. So I'll skip some of the slides so that we can have enough time for discussion. But for the National Research Foundation, the mission or the mandate of the Research Foundation is to undertake science that addresses the real challenges that are faced by society. And some of the critical challenges or the critical challenges are food and nutrition insecurity, unemployment, and inequality. And this is particularly for the rural marginalized communities that, as Paul has showed in his talk, where he said subsistence is the way of life for most of these communities. So yeah, inland fisheries are a vital resource for the marginalized communities in Africa. These pictures that I have here, I took them during my recent visit to the Congo Basin. You can see here the diversity of the fish species that are harvested from the systems, and they are prepared in different ways. Some of them you can buy them fresh, some they are dried. But what I really want to emphasize here is that they catch everything, from the smallest, the barbs, to the largest species that you find in the systems. And what is important, I don't know if you can see it on the slide here, each species has got a value, and the communities know the values, the high value species, and also some of the ones that, so you can really calculate the economic value of the entire fisheries based on if you interact and engage with the with the fish with the people that sell the fishes at the fish markets. So it's a vital resource for the protein that it provides, but also importantly for income through ecotourism. And in Botswana, estimates that were done in 2000 are that 65%, quite a substantial number of the 25,000 people that live within the periphery of the Delta are directly dependent on the fish resources for their sustenance. And fisheries contribute about 20 to 40% of household income within the Delta. The floodplain systems, such as the Okavango Delta itself and quite a number of other floodplain systems on the African continent, are ranked amongst some of the most productive systems in the tropics. And the productivity is driven by a complex interplay of both the biotic and abiotic factors. I'm not going to unpack this illustration that I got from Mosepele and colleagues in 2009. But the point that I want to drive here is that disruption of any of these linkages, depending on its magnitude, is going to affect productivity of the system. And this is going to have direct ripple effects on the rural communities that are dependent on that depend on these resources. And some of the challenges already Paul has mentioned is rapid population, human population growth, and this is expected to increase the pressures on the water resources within the next 2 decades. With projected global climate change also likely going to increase water stress in Southern Africa because of the reduction in precipitation and increased variability in rainfall patterns. And the productivity of the Okavango Delta directly depends on the inflows from the Angolan highlands. But the challenges in terms of managing a transboundary system, which you already heard from Paul Skelton, is that this really depends, the survival or the future of the delta depends on what Angola decides to do. So if there's a construction of an impoundment in Angola, this is going to have severe consequences on the hydrological regime of the delta. And this is going to affect the productivity of the fisheries and also the people that depend on the system for food security and income. Overfishing is currently considered to be localized because some of the parts of the delta are not easily accessible. But there are emerging threats to the delta, which are the invasive species, the question that was asked earlier on. And we're just going to talk briefly about this. Although these ones have not yet been recorded in the delta itself, one of them is the invasive crayfish. There are two species. The first one is the Australian red claw crayfish, Cherax quadricarnatus, which is native to Australia and eastern part of the Papua New Guinea. It was introduced in Africa for aquaculture, but it is kept. Now it's well established in South Africa, Eswatini, Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and potentially in Namibia. The second one is the red swamp crayfish, Procambrus clarki, which has been introduced for aquaculture and ornamental species purposes, and now is well established in parts of South Africa. The main challenges of the crayfish is that it affects the biodiversity of the systems where it has been introduced through predation and competition, as well as habitat modification. But the work that is being done by researchers from SIAB and collaborators from Leeds University, Professor Josie South and Dr. Takuzoma Dzivanzira, who is at the University of Zimbabwe, a former PhD student of the institute, have really given another glimpse on the challenges that are associated with this, with the crayfish, in terms of the destruction of fisheries, because they scavenge on the fish that are caught in gill nets and also in traps, and these impacts have been well documented. You can see the quality of the fishes that are there, and it really reduces the value of these fishes. So major challenge, not yet in the Okavango Delta, but it's already in the adjacent river systems, and hopefully it doesn't make its way through into the Delta, because it will have severe impacts. Oreochromis niloticus, not yet also in the Delta. It has not yet been recorded within the Delta itself, but from the surveys that we've done and the trip, a recent trip that we did, we've realized that there are some aquaculture ventures that are within, for example, the Chobe catchment and also parts of the Limpopo catchment. This is native to the Nile Basin, and it is classified as a conflict species. So conflict species are species that have got huge economic value, but they also harm the environment and biodiversity. So this really creates challenges between users. It is preferred for warm water aquaculture because of its various attributes in terms of fast growth, hardy and resistant and tolerant, but it hybridizes with native Oreochromis species. And in some of the systems that we've studied so far, the picture that you see there is the top one, Oreochromis niloticus, the middle one, Oreochromis mozambicus. The bottom picture shows a specimen with intermediate features or traits of both niloticus and mozambicus, really showing that hybridization is already happening in some of the systems that have been invaded. Oreochromis niloticus has been implicated as the cause for the decline of the Kariba bream, Oreochromis mortymeri, in the Middle Zambezi. So in South Africa, the need to manage alien invasive species to reduce their potential harm is a legislated requirement. But as Paul has mentioned, you can have all the legislature in your country, but managing transboundary systems is quite a challenge. So you need to have that collaboration and engagement with the neighboring countries so that you can effectively manage the conflict species. There is also need for credible scientific information to guide decision making. So you need within Botswana at the moment, what is required is to do comprehensive sampling, comprehensive surveys to identify areas where potentially Oreochromis niloticus is already in the systems, and then come up with ways of managing that to prevent it from spreading into more critical habitats such as the delta. There are a number of challenges in terms of effective management of the delta and its resources, the complexity of the fishery and the dynamic nature of the system. So you have more than 70 species that are exploited using multiple fishing methods. So it's not possible to have a conventional single species stock assessment approach because each species responds differently. So this really complicates management of the fisheries itself. And also the delta experiences high seasonal variability, which are not predictable in many instances. So you cannot come up with fisheries management models that are based on a steady state. They wouldn't apply in a system like that. So this is really one of the major challenges, but there's need for information, there's need for dedicated studies that can help to generate the much needed information to inform better management of such highly seasonal systems. Another major one is the incomplete knowledge of the diversity and distribution of the species. And I'm going to use two examples or two case studies based on the work that we've been doing in Southern Africa, where we demonstrate the current incomplete knowledge of the diversity and the distribution of the species that we have. This study was done by one of our PhD students here at SciAb, who looked at the extent of genetic diversity within the Parochinoglanis ngamensis. So this species was described from Lake Ngami. Before this study that was done by Yonela Stole, she's now a PDP fellow at SciAb, the distribution of this species was considered to extend from the Okavango, Upper Zambezi, and into parts of the Congo basin. But after this study, we realized that Parochinoglanis ngamensis is actually a complex of more than 9 species that were lumped into a single species that had a much wider distribution range. So from this study, we've described 8 new species and provided more accurate distribution ranges of the species. This information is critical and is important to guide, conservation status assessment and also to better manage your fisheries. Another study that was done by also another PhD student from the Institute, Tadiwa Mtizwa, also a postdoc at SciAb, Heteromormyridae, previously Hippopotamirus antsoji, previously widely distributed. If you look at the map here, if you look at this map here, you can see that it was parts of the Kwanza system, Kunene, Upper Zambezi, Okavango, Lower Zambezi, and Pungwe and Buzi river systems. And from this study, we found out that, again, it's a complex of many different species that had been lumped together into a single species with a disjunct distribution. So we've described, this work has been concluded, and we've described a new species of this genus that is endemic to the Okavango river system. So in terms of the way forward, it is important to address all those challenges that we've raised. One of the most important resources are the people. And we need to build regional capacity. And this is achieved by training of students and field biologists. I presented those 2 examples of the people that are currently filling the gap and working on the taxonomy of fishes within our region. But it is also very important for the focus to be on the locals, people that are directly connected to the systems. Previously, you would find people coming from, the northern regions, the northern hemisphere. they take the knowledge, and with very little, in terms of localized capacity development. So this is what we're driving at the NRF SIAB, where a number of our students and postdocs are getting the required skills to undertake this work that is required to generate credible scientific information that helps with the management of our systems. One of the major challenges is the capacity, the capacity in terms of the taxonomic, the taxonomic expertise within our region. We realized this gap, and in 2024, through collaboration with FAO, we initiated a program where we are now building the taxonomic capacity within the African continent. The aim here is really to address the taxonomic gap on the continent, because taxonomy is the backbone of everything. You cannot do ecological studies, you cannot do effective conservation without the fundamental information of what you want to protect. So we have initiated this program, which is going to be an annual program, and it's open to participants from across the African continent. In 2024, we had participants that came from Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and South Africa. So we hope to continue to expand this and open it and reach many other people from other different parts of the continent. Again, really speaking to what Paul mentioned in terms of building, regional integration. So the regional partnerships are very critical because they help to facilitate sharing and creating access to state-of-the-art research platforms. It's pointless to duplicate or replicate efforts at the various institutions. For example, constructing several different genetic labs at a number of universities. It's better to pool the resources and then expand it and spread it so that people have got access to these state-of-the-art platforms. I've given here examples of the platforms that are available at the NRF SIAB, which, because our work spans from the marine, estuarine, and also freshwater systems, a fully contained molecular lab, a biobank, a collection facility. And the top picture here is a picture that we took recently when I came to visit the Okavango Delta for the first time, where we are now initiating a big program that involves researchers from University of Botswana, BUST. I heard that Dr. Tetela Bukutlo is in the room, Wilbert from Rhodes University, but we want to expand it so that we can work with partners from Namibia, from Zimbabwe, from Zambia, from Mozambique, so that we can really enhance our capabilities in terms of addressing the challenges that are faced by fisheries, our freshwater systems in the country, in the continent. So as I opened up, the real aim of all this work, if it doesn't contribute to societal impact, really the value itself is diminished. So all the information that needs to be generated really has to inform assessment and monitoring of biodiversity, identification of important areas that need to be prioritized for protection. When you collect some of the tissue samples that get deposited into biobanks, they can open new windows and new opportunities. When you look at systems such as the Okavango that are not very well studied, there's quite a lot that still awaits to be discovered. But there's a new technologies that are driving bioprospecting, which is actually currently being considered to be the new gold rush. So, and human capacity development is quite a critical one. When you also look at fisheries management for food and nutrition security, and generating information that supports socioeconomic development and job creation. But aspects of human health also are very, very critical. So the program that we're putting together with the colleagues that I mentioned earlier are really aimed at focusing on these broad spectrum of aspects that hopefully in the coming years would have addressed the existing knowledge gaps and have better knowledge to manage our systems. So the take-home message is that capture fisheries are a vital resource for riparian populations in the Delta. The fishery in the Delta is predominantly small scale, and the communities use a variety of methods to catch the fish. The fishing activities are strongly influenced by the annual flood pulse, which affects where and when fishers can access productive fishing grounds, with annual catches ranging from about 600 to about 1,500 tons per year. And this variability is due to the highly variable nature of the flood regimes. The emerging threats really need to be monitored, but there's need for information in terms of the distribution of all these threats, and dedicated surveys are required for us to generate information that can inform policymakers in terms of decision, in terms of guiding their decisions that need to be made. So, yeah, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Albert Chakona. That was a very interesting presentation, and it's good to see that you're getting the students to be on board and fill in the gaps. So now we're just going to get 2 questions because of time. If there is any question from our online audience and the students, please raise your virtual hand. Dr. Richard, is there any question from the students there?
Yes, Dr. there's a question.
All right.
Good morning, and thank you for the presentation, Prof Chakona. Good to see you. I was just, mine is just a short one. I see you are doing very interesting studies on the taxonomy, and you unraveled the hippopotamus complex of species. And I was just wondering if you have interest on the Synodontis species complex, because it seems like currently there is a bit of a problem with that species complex. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor Albert.
Thank you, Tetela. Yeah, in terms of taxonomy, we are really looking at all the species that have got unusual, wide distribution patterns. So the Synodontis is one of the next target species. We also are working on a number of small barb species. Also the Clarias, if you look at the distribution of Clarias ngamensis, which is one of the important fishery species, you have a divided distribution where you have it distributed in the Okavango, Upper Zambezi. You have a gap, then there's a gap in the Middle Zambezi, and then you have it in the eastern regions, lower Zambezi, all the way to parts of the Limpopo. So all these species that have got unusual wide distribution ranges and disjunct distributions with their targets for our next studies, obviously working in collaboration with you and students at the different universities in Botswana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Albert.